Having seen some implication about how value is created and captured along a chain who is providing something that is willing to be paid by a customer, now we have to consider which are strategic implications on this. And going back again to Brandenburger and Stewart, the key point is that there are four ways in which value added can be different. And so you can position yourself in the 150 or in 100 willingness to pay position. The first point is you can act on willingness to pay, increasing the willingness to pay a customer has for your product or decreasing the willingness to pay that the customer has for another competitor's product. On the same, in the same way, but on the other side, you can lower the opportunity cost of a supplier who is dealing with you, or you can try to rise the opportunity cost for a supplier to deal with one of your competitors. How you can do that? Again, as usually happen with game theory, this seems theoretical stuff, but in the moment in which you switch your theoretical stuff in a decision-making approach and the management approach, you can see is that there are immediately concrete ways to act, to realize this kind of theories. So the first point is, let's say, very simple, very easy. If you are a firm, you want to increase your willingness to pay, be different, differentiated. This is, let's say, Porter 1.0. But on the other side, if you go on the right, there is a way of for lowering the willingness to pay for competitors' products. That is the switching cost. If I have a customer and this customer has to incur some cost to switch from my product or my offering to a competitor's product or offering, that's exactly a way in which I lowered the willingness to pay for other products. And again, it's plenty of cases. If you want, for example, to switch the provider of your mobile phone, it's ready. You can easily touch with your personal experience switching cost. But on the other side, there are subtle, more complex switching costs that today are coherently imputed in our platform economy. So if you want to switch your Spotify subscription to another, you will probably lose your playlist. If you want to switch from Apple to Google phones, from iOS to Android, you will have switching cost, and so on and so forth. We will see in a coming video on competing with platforms how much this switching cost can be strategically wise important in the real practical world of managers. But let's look also on the opportunity cost. For example, a take or pay agreement is something that is lowering the opportunity cost of dealing with you. Take or pay is a contract that a firm can do with its suppliers or one of its suppliers, saying, I will pay for the specific investment you must do to operate with me, to serve me, and I will pay this little by little on the volumes you will sell me. But if I don't buy all the volumes and you have done the specific investment to serve me based on that volume forecasting, I will pay anyway the amount of money I owe you. So I will assure that your specific investment will not be lost dealing with me. On the other side, you can also hire the cost for your supplier to deal with your competitor. Exclusive agreement are this kind of cost. You cannot deal with that company, or you can deal, but you cannot use the same production line you use for me. So you will incur an additional cost. And so you will hire the cost for that supplier to deal with your competitors. And you can see very easily in the moment in which you start to see competition in terms of value, creating and capturing value, you will find a number of new solutions to deal with a number of players in your competitive arena. One of the most interesting consequence of dealing of reasoning based on value is that you can move from trade-offs to trade-ons. Trade-off, it's very clear. It's again Porter 100 kind of things. If you rise the willingness to pay of a customer, usually you have more cost. You have a better product, you have a differentiating product, you have something more for the customer, and to get that more, you have to pay something more in terms of cost. Or you can reduce the cost and reduce a bit, not as much, but a bit, the willingness to pay. Again, you do the content of your product will be discounted, the willingness to pay will decrease. Hopefully, this decrease will be lower than the decrease of your cost, so you can still have some profit on that. But there are trade-ons. Trade-ons are cases in which you lower the cost, but if you lower that cost in that way, you will also higher the willingness to pay. So your cost will go down, your price will go up. Or on the other way, you can deliver a better product, so increase the willingness to pay and lower the cost. Let's look again to a concrete example, because usually, again, there is the issue of thinking that this is pure theory. And this is an example. The example is the Club Med case. And look at how Club Med is functioning. First point, Club Med is a leisure hotel in which you go in a nice place, and you can perceive and live the ambient. And usually this kind of offer is quite high in terms of price. It's expensive, but on the other side, people that love that kind of environment are also willing to be employed in that kind of environment. So probably sons or young people that joined the Club Med being a customer then become employees. So they pay less than employees because they are willing to be again in the Club Med, and usually they are not too much focused on making money because it's a part-time job, or it's a job for a young fellow in the family. But let's look at another trade-on. The interesting part of being in Club Med is spending time in the village, being in the resorts compound, having all the sports or the entertainment. But if you are in a nice countryside, or if you are in a nice highland, you want to see where you are. So there are the field trip. You go outside and you see things outside the area. But that's incredibly against the business model. So they are incredibly expensive. Why? Because if you leave the compound and you go outside the resort to visit something, there will be less people within the compound, and so the group experience will be lower. Again, in this case, you can lower the cost because you don't have to offer differentiation through field trips, and not doing that, you have more people in the resorts and you are increasing the value for people in the resorts. Third, the facilities. Probably if you had the experience in the Club Med, it's quite funny the fact that you pay a lot of money and then you end up to be in a room that is not really, let's say, a luxury room that you should expect based on the price you are paying. Why? Because you pay the price for the value. It's outside your room. It's for the entertainment. It's for the resort. So there is no need to having a wonderful room because you are not expected to spend time in the room. And again, in this case, the company is reducing the cost of furnitures in the rooms or the overall cost of setting up a room, but is increasing the value. I don't spend time in a room that is quite standard, but I go outside, and outside it's a very, if the luxury is a strong, and in that case, I enjoy more the time I spent outside the room. If you want something similar, you can think about the cruises. Cruises probably are working the same way. Fourth point, properties. Club Med is not buying the property. This is in terms of cost for the company, avoiding all the huge investment of owning assets. But on the other side, they are attracting people in that property. Therefore, if the lender is asking too much money, they just switch to another landlord in another part of the area or of the island, as in the case, and they will have the same amount of customers because they are coming there not for the property of the landlord, but for the experience of Club Med. Again, last time, trying to convince you that price wars are stupid kind of strategic management decision making. In the moment in which you, through a discount, gain one customer, you get less in terms of value than what your competitors lose. Why? Because you get the customer at a lower price. So the customer is increasing his value, trading suppliers, trading firms offering something, but at the end, the value you get is less than the value your competitor had, because even if only €1, to lower the price of €1, you have to give that euro to the customer, not, it was €1 that your competitor was not giving to the customer. On the other way around, what is doing the competitor is doing the same thing. It's easy, it's simple, it's quick. Let's do a discount. Let's go get our customers that were stolen. And so he is giving an additional €1 to your present customer to switch the customer from you to him. And so the customer is getting €2 in his value, and you have lost your customer, and the competitor has gained at the cost of €1 your customer. And so there is no value in doing that apart from the customer. So which are the antidotes to this kind of unhealthy imitation? First, know your customer better than your competitors. You want, again, go in the concrete real world of this, Amazon. Create brand identity. Be sure that customer recognize you as different from the others. Again, too much theory, thinks about the bears. Build volume to move down the learning curve. Try to produce more so that you will be ahead of other competitors. Again, pure theory, let's look at Tesla. Compete aggressively for volume so that competitors can follow you down the learning curve. So if there is a way in which I can even more lower the cost is there. Do you want another example there? In the real world, Spotify. Spotify is getting big in order to have a number of services that can be offered to customers on top of the simple commodity that is the music track. So now, having seen a bit of implications in terms of strategy, move to the next question. Who are the players in these competitive arenas? Is the competitive arena of the value-based strategy the same of, let's say, the Porter 5 forces model? We will answer this question next video.